Welcome back to another edition of The Explainer. Usually we take massive research papers, dense data sets, or these really extensive articles, and we break them down. But today, well, our source text is remarkably brief. It is literally just a handful of words. But please, do not let that brevity fool you. Sometimes the absolutely most profound concepts are locked inside the most compact spaces. So today, we're going to unpack those few words and discover the incredible philosophical depth hidden right there on the page. And we'll see exactly how language itself can, play tricks on our expectations. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. Can a single word contain an entire journey? Now, when you hear the word Odyssey, you might immediately prepare yourself for a sweeping epic, right? You're probably expecting a play-by-play of ancient heroes, maybe some mythological sea monsters, and years of endless wandering across the Mediterranean. But I gotta humorously admit right up front, today our journey is strictly an exploration of the provided words themselves. We aren't looking at a map of ancient Greece, we're looking at a map of language. We're going to explore how words set up our expectations, only to completely subvert them. Section 1. The concept of the fragment. Before we even know what the text is actually about, this very first word gives us a powerful framing device. So the crucial point is that an excerpt is, by its very nature, an isolated fragment. It's a piece pulled away from a larger, complete work. The moment you read the word excerpt, it inherently sets this expectation of incompleteness. It creates an immediate tension for us as readers. We know, right from the jump, that we're only receiving a tiny, highly curated piece of something much, much grander. It's kind of like we're on the outside looking through a really narrow keyhole. It's a statement of limitation. The author is essentially telling us, hey, I'm only going to give you a fraction of the reality. Moving on to Section 2, the concept of the journey. Now we're shifting our focus to the exact subject matter this tiny fragment is actually attempting to contain. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of what we're dealing with here. An Odyssey is a long, sprawling wandering. It's a voyage marked by massive changes of fortune. The immense magnitude and duration implied by the word Odyssey stands in direct, stark philosophical opposition to the concept of a brief, isolated excerpt. Think about it. An excerpt is just a snapshot, but an Odyssey? That's a multi-year epic. How can a tiny isolated fragment possibly do justice to a boundless, sprawling wandering? These two concepts, they are fundamentally at war with one another. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conceptual tension of our text. On the left, we have the excerpt, the fragment, the small, pulled piece that's restricted and bounded. And we're pitting it against what we have on the right, the Odyssey, the whole, the boundless, epic journey that absolutely defies easy categorization. I want you to really take a second and reflect on the sheer paradox of this. Our source text is attempting to capture a sprawling, uncontrollable journey within a single fragmented limitation. It is literally like trying to catch an entire ocean inside a thimble. The structural premise of the text is almost absurd in its ambition. So how does the author actually pull off this impossible task? What is the actual excerpt? Let's look at Section 3, the echoing text. This is where we see exactly how the text resolves that massive tension between the tiny fragment and the boundless whole. Here it is. This is the exact, literal source text. The Odyssey. The Odyssey. Let that sink in for just a second. We were promised an excerpt of an epic journey, right? But instead of providing a traditional narrative extract, instead of giving us, say, a quote about a ship or a wild storm or a brave hero, the source material simply repeats the subject. The fragment of the Odyssey is the Odyssey. The text just collapses completely in on itself. Let's move to and see how this builds. By visually blowing up this repetition, we can see how it acts as a linguistic echo. The Odyssey. The Odyssey. It implies something deeply, deeply profound. The idea that the only way to truly excerpt a boundless journey is to infinitely recurse its name. You can't just take a piece of a journey because every single piece is fundamentally tied to the whole shebang. The fragment literally becomes a mirror, reflecting the entire concept back at itself. The attempt to break down the journey? Well, it only results in stating the journey all over again. Which leaves us with this final, profound thought to close out our explainer today. If the fragment and the whole are identical, if the only excerpt of the Odyssey is literally just the word Odyssey, does naming the journey become the journey itself? It really forces us to ask incredible questions about the recursive nature of language and how we attempt to break down vast, limitless experiences into manageable little pieces. Sometimes, it turns out, the only way to explain the epic is just to speak its name and let the echo do the rest. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredibly unique deep dive. And hey, keep pondering the boundless journeys in your own life.